Well, for the purpose of exactly what we're praying for in the relief in the petition, that the overcrowdedness be rectified, that the hole, so to speak, which quote unquote be eliminated, that there be increased facilities as far as the inmates are concerned, that recreational areas, not necessarily, I don't mean turn it into a country club, but where you get a little exercise, be approved, that when somebody comes to visit them, that there's some degree of privacy. Not, obviously we're running a jail, but we don't, again, no country club. This is nothing new to Dallas County. As a matter of fact, since 1958, there have been sundry committees reporting and making reports. Even now, the Council of Governments is having a computerized investigation as to exactly what type of facility is needed, whether a regional jail is needed or whether to reopen the old Dallas County jail. But admittedly, by everybody, it's overcrowded, and with all the attendant problems that go with overcrowdedness, that you have to delegate to a prisoner to watch over the inmates. This creates some sort of a clique in there, which isn't healthy at all.
I think this is a matter of very great benefit to the world as a whole and to the future of the United States, that this country with 800 million people is now going to come and sit down and has to answer and argue and justify and explain.
But will they?
This is a yes. Well, they've got to if they come and sit down. They can't. When they come and sit down at the table, they've got to speak and they've got to answer. I feel it's a very great advantage to have Peking represented rather than in dangerous isolation, taking its decisions on its own without any consultation with anyone. This is a great move forward, and it's done by the United States. And now you've had a concentration on this secondary issue. It is a secondary issue because, as you know, the only thing that Peking and Taiwan agreed on was that they both claimed to represent the whole of China. They weren't asking to represent Taiwan separately. They claimed, and they still claim, and after the vote they claimed that they represent those who came from Taiwan, who are Chiang Kai-shek's men, claimed that they represent the whole of China. So it was a simple decision.
The court order requires that we submit a report on November the 1st and March the 1st. We have submitted the facts in the case. We have done our best to implement not only the letter but the spirit of the order. It's up to the judge to determine whether or not the extent to which it's been successful.
Are you personally pleased with the success?
I have no comments at this point with regard to anything relating to the court order.
Well, certainly, if we have any more, it'll be harmful to the school system as such. You see, we feel that the educational programs for the people who live in Fort Worth, and to make this even more tedious, we think that we have complied with the law. We've acted in good faith. We have done everything we have done in the face of all the criticism we've received to try to have a good educational program. We think we have complied with the court order. We've kept faith with both the whites and the blacks. We have not made the whites or blacks have the majority of traveling. And it's working. It's very successful, although we've had some white people leave. But when you consider the tremendous number, I think that the city of Fort Worth will remain static, and we won't lose any more. I think that our attorneys told the judges some very important things. Where the Fort Worth Public Schools and the city of Fort Worth is trying to dismantle the dual system, which is the one that was against the law. We believe the NAACP is trying to dismantle the city.
Operating engineers of local Union 819 at Fort Worth continue to picket a construction site at the regional airport despite charges that the strike is illegal. The strikers, or picketers, have left for the day. The Fort Worth local claims that B&J Excavation Company of Dallas does not have a working agreement with Local 819 to perform the job. The equipment of B&J was idle today, but they claim it was not because of the picketers, only because of the wet grounds. B&J employs workers of Local 714 in Dallas and is a subcontractor to Manhattan Construction of Dallas. Their contract is for the $21.5 million power plant at the airport. Manhattan has agreements with both Dallas and Fort Worth locals, and that company has filed a complaint with the National Labor Relations Board claiming the pickets represent unfair labor practices. The spokesman for Manhattan, Jerry Self, told me that a working agreement with Local 819 is not necessary, according to the International Operating Engineers Union. Self claims the Dallas union members only have to check in with the Fort Worth local when reporting to their job. This eliminates the benefits that the Fort Worth local might receive, which apparently is the major objection. Joe Harris of the Labor Relations Board is investigating the dispute. If the work stoppage is illegal, an injunction will be issued possibly tomorrow morning to stop the picketing. Jim Green, Channel 8 News on the Move at the Dallas-Fort Worth Regional Airport site.
I don't think there's any change in the trend at all so far as the intensity of deception in the marketplace. I think what we are finding out is that we are learning more about deception in the marketplace. The consuming public is reporting to the Federal Trade Commission what is happening, and the agency is taking and playing a more active and vigorous role in combating deception in the marketplace.
And what major steps are you taking?
Well, there's been a complete structural reorganization of the Federal Trade Commission. A great deal of the responsibilities and authority for coming to grips with these problems have been given to the regional offices. We are playing a far more active role in developing input, moving faster on cases. We are selecting our cases in a much better fashion than heretofore, coming to grips with real problems of real market significance.
Let's say you're out zipping along the turnpike one sunny afternoon in your little GT whatever, doing about 80 miles an hour. All of a sudden, from a white box on the side of the road, a dull red flash emits. You think nothing of it, but a few days later, you receive a citation through the mail that says you were doing about 80 miles an hour. Well, you've been had by Orbis, and if a proposal received by the Turnpike Authority this morning is put into effect, Orbis will be along the road on the Dallas-Fort Worth Turnpike. The presentation was made by Dick Myers of LTV. LTV builds Orbis 3, which is a speed control device. Myers told the Turnpike Authority about the advantages of slowing down the fast drivers, speeding up the slow ones, and generally keeping traffic in a correct medium speed range. What happens is that Orbis takes your picture. It records not only your face, but the license plate on your car. It can do this during the day or at night with its electronic flash unit. It's supposed to be completely safe. The driver knows he's being photographed, but he's not distracted from his driving. Myers says that on Spur 303 here in Arlington, where the system was first put into effect, traffic incidents of speeding have dropped from 240 when the system was first put into effect down to about 20 a day now. The Turnpike Authority took the proposal under advisement. The cost is no great factor. It's about $85,000 a year, or in other words, about what it would cost to put one patrolman full-time, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, on the turnpike in a radar-equipped patrol car. The problem is public acceptance. The problem is people who pay to drive on the turnpike really may not want their actions monitored by a big brother device. But the fact is this, that turnpike accidents have been killing people every year. If the authority feels that the accidents can be reduced, thus lives may be saved, then they may consider the system, Orbis 3, an important one in speed control on the turnpike. Whatever happens, if Orbis 3 is put on there, brother, you'll know that your big brother is watching you. Jay Lewis, Channel 8 News on the Move, Spur 303 in Arlington.
Do you feel, as many Americans do now, that this is the beginning of the end for the United Nations?
No, I think exactly the opposite. I think that this is the beginning of a new era for the United Nations, which will be far more effective than it's ever been before, for the simple reason that a quarter of the world's population, which is not now represented in the United Nations, in future will be represented. And I would say that on the great issues of disarmament and development and the great racial issues of the world, you can't deal with them without a quarter of the population, with the whole of the Chinese nation in dangerous isolation.
But wasn't the issue, sir, the expulsion of nationalist China in order to bring Red China in? Why would, in your analysis, say your country, Israel, other countries aligned with the United States, vote for this, knowing the United States was opposed?
Well, we have to make up our own minds, and we made our position very clear to the United States. And all European countries, all Scandinavian countries, Canada, as you say, Israel, India, Iran, 76 nations felt differently, very strongly differently from the United States. And we got a right, naturally, to come to our own conclusions and state our own position.
But I do wish to take this opportunity to greet you and to make a few remarks on the subject of this very important NAM teleconference. I'm happy to report that the 90-day wage price freeze we put into effect in mid-August has been extraordinarily successful.
But you can't do everything in 24 hours.
That's right.
So you've got a question of inequity that the steel industry knows, but the copper does not know.
Now, how it will actually happen, my guess is that they will be sufficiently clear in nature that a vast majority of the economic activities in this country will know what it
I have no comment to make, and I would like to forget the Fifth Circuit, too.
Well, I'm working for another political party, another political movement, which will, I hope, find a candidate to run for office. When I call Nixon and Mitchell thugs, what I'm talking about is the fact that they do not hesitate in the slightest to break the law themselves when it's something that they believe in. And I was referring to the fact that last May Day I was one of the 12,000 arrested without the slightest legal excuse or the slightest legal procedure, just because they wanted us off the street of Washington. I'm talking about the fact that when school busing, for instance, has been proposed by courts all over the United States as the only practical solution for integration of schools in many districts, that the president is doing everything that he can to interfere with that and to bring about lack of confidence of the American people that busing is necessary.
Mr. Thompson, what do you see as the primary benefit of this program this morning to these businessmen?
Jim, it is to get industry prepared for what is coming in phase 2. We need information on which to base our plans to run our businesses. And the entire purpose of the National Association of Manufacturers putting on this teleconference is to inform the business and industrial community of the plans of these boards.
My main objection is that the man does not have to qualify anywhere in this new procedure. He does not have to take a qualifying entrance exam. He does not have to take a qualifying examination at the academy. And nowhere in this 3-phase procedure does this man have to sit down and take a test and qualify.
Doesn't the Otis Lennon test still apply as 1/3 of his entrance?
Yes, sir, but there is no minimum score on this. He can make 0 on the Otis Lennon test.
Sir, it is my understanding, I talked with the police department before coming down here, but there is a break-off point on that score. In other words, he must average 70 or better on the 3 phases of his training.
On the 3 phases, yes. This includes the Otis Lennon test, the score that he makes at the police academy, and what he is rated on his probationary
Yes,
course.
sir. If he makes 0 on the test and 100 at the academy and on his training, that's only 200, and you divide that by 3, and he has flunked.
Right. But basically, this is what the man at the civil service told me, that theoretically he didn't have to make any score. Actually, he'd have to make 20. A man could make 20 on the IQ test, and he could make a high enough grade at the academy and a high enough grade on his probationary test that he would be a Dallas police officer by making 20 on the IQ test.
I've been requested to represent the officers in the investigation and is now in progress in the Mesquite area and in the North Texas area. And at this time, we have been advised by the District Attorney's Office to make no statements, that we have a suspect in custody, and that the investigation is continuing. This is due to the Supreme Court rulings which we have had in the past and have forced us into this position. Thank you.
there isn't any doubt the government has strict control so as to avoid any dissension among the populace. Right.
How will this government then accept the rejection by the United Nations?
I was surprised to read the editorials in Taipei. They were very reasonable in their position. They didn't have a lot of temper. They appealed to logic. They appealed to, they said, character, integrity, loyalty, honesty. All over the town were stickers strongly oppose admission Peking to UN. It's just all over. But I didn't find a single person who seemed to be hot about the issue.
They beat some real good teams. They beat Minnesota and Detroit, and they got a great defensive ball club, which is basically what we look at on the offense. But overall, they've got a good ball club, and it's always a fight in Chicago. I know the last it was 4 years ago, I think we played them, and had a real tough ball game. So we're expecting that again this year.
And of course, as the guy who gets most of his yardage inside, you'll meet a fellow who's got a bit of a reputation.
Yeah, Mr. Butkus, I'm sure will play, and you can't say enough about him. He's probably the greatest linebacker that's played the game. As far as playing it tough and against the run. So we'll probably meet one another.
Do you recall anything from your previous meetings with him? Is he the kind who intimidates you vocally as well as physically?
Well, let's say 4 years ago, I think it's the only time I ever had a meeting with Butkus, and the only time we played the Bears that I've been with the Cowboys, and of course Perkins was here then, and I got to play some in all the last quarter, and Butkus does do a lot of hollering on the field, but he also backs it up with, with his ability. So you can't ever fault a guy for hollering if he can back it up.
Eh bien, mon Michel, qu'est-ce que tu penses des jolies filles ici?
Eh bien, des belles poules ici l'après-midi.
Toi, ça va rendre la joute plus facile, n'est-ce pas?
Ah, je crois que les joueurs vont donner tout ce qu'ils ont à l'avenir. Je crois que ça va financer dans le classement cette année.
Eh bien, ça fait 5 ans que je suis à Dallas et c'est la première fois que nous avons de très jolies filles. Toi, Pete, tu es très chanceux, c'est seulement ta 2e année.
Eh bien, mon ami JP, disons que c'était une magnifique partie. Les deux équipes ont fourni un effort total. Et une autre question.
Excuse me, JP, are you discussing strategy for the game?
Well, it's not exactly strategy for the game if you want to know the truth.
Are you talking about the Usherettes?
How did you know, Jay?
Well, it sounded a little bit like you might be talking about girls instead of hockey. But I would like to get serious a bit. I know the girls will be an added attraction, but what about Fort Worth tomorrow night?
Well, after last week's game, we kind of respect Fort Worth. They gave us a good battle, and they have a fair hockey team. But we're back in our building now, and it's a different story, and I'm very confident about tomorrow night.
Would you say the front lines are Dallas's greatest asset toward winning the Central Hockey League at the moment?
Well, at the moment, we have the quantity, that's for sure. We have 4 regular lines, and we've got 2 extra very good hockey players that haven't played yet. So I guess we have balance at the front. But I guess one of our stronger points after a few games will be our defense, because they have the size and the speed, and our goaltending, I think, is very adequate, and so there shouldn't be any problem.
Fortunately, in Dallas, we've always had the one of the outstanding bar associations in the country. But in last few years, not only the attorneys, but other professional people and business people and the average citizens been a little careless and neglectful, and they've let this thing get out of hand. See, the Dallas Bar sponsors this program, and I think the time is here when we are going to have to call on some of the better lawyers. In fact, many of them, the great majority of them, are just real fine. In fact, they encouraged us to write this letter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Vern, everybody's much better. It's like, you know, you always look back. Of course, I've been around since the league started, and it's like 5 years and 500% different. Everybody's stronger. The draft helped quite a few teams out last year, and a few of the, you know, the younger players have come along and are playing a lot better. So the competition is much, much keener, and we're getting better ourselves. I think the biggest problem with us has been that everybody is new in the sense that it's a new system. You know, the coaches put in a new system, and I'm new here. Rich and Gene and John and Dom and Joe, the people who were here from last year, but then it's new to them too. And then we have some rookies that are in here, and everybody's learning. So it takes a little while, and that's the thing that we did in the exhibition. We were learning, and we're learning a little bit faster than they thought we would.
And a lot of people just can't get out of the way quick enough. It'll bounce almost any time. A deflected shot or a wild...
I think in this kind of environment, the market ceases to be as interesting. If we are to eliminate windfall profits, and that's what President Nixon told us in his last speech, then there's a lot of fun taken out of the market. If the market can't pick a real winner, if windfall profits are not going to be allowed, then why bother picking if you can't pick a real winner? I don't think you're going to get the same price-earnings ratios, the same 18-to-1 price-earnings ratios that we've had in the post-war period if we're going to eliminate windfall profits. And I think the more controlled environment into which our economy is moving suggests that we're going to eliminate windfall profits.
Does this mean that you look for fewer people to be in the stock market?
I would look for a diminution in interest, yes, and fewer people. I think the mutual funds are already feeling it, with redemptions exceeding sales. It means fewer people are investing less funds in that way, and I think it's going to show up in other indices as we come to see the figures.
No, I'm not interested in any elected or appointed office. What I'm interested in, as I say repeatedly, is the development of a new kind of full-time citizenship and a new kind of community citizenship to back up that full-time citizenship. Because we can't anymore think that we can delegate our problems to large bureaucratic or corporate institutions and expect them to deliver. We've seen too much of a booming economy not solving the major problems in our country, and indeed often creating many newer ones or intensified ones, such as pollution.
I was served yesterday by the United States Marshal. Of course, this didn't surprise us. We knew the minute that Sheriff Jones turned in that marvelous card containing those prisoners and racking them up, that we was going to upset Dallas Legal Services. They've been trying to take over the operation of the county jail ever since they've been here.
I have a letter that you sent to the Dallas Bar Association bearing 3 other names other than yourself of county commissioners asking their assistance and guidance. Exactly what can you get from the Dallas Bar Association?
You have issued a list of demands.
I haven't issued any list of demands.
Okay, what have you done?
The black community has issued a list of demands.
And what will be done if this list of demands is not met?
You'll see 12 o'clock noon next Friday, November the 5th, 1971.
You don't care to elaborate at all?
About what?
About what's going to be done.
I told you you'll see.
Well, we can...
my answer
okay.
should satisfy your question right there.
Well, do you not want to even mention the boycott in this interview?
Yes, this is what we're talking about. This is what the interview is about.
But you haven't said the word. That's what I'm looking for.
This is what the interview is about.
Okay, let's
you
start.
Asked me a specific question about the interview.
Let's
it's
start.
been answered already.
Let's start at the beginning then. Okay. Try to remember, if you will, that nobody inside that camera has heard anything that's been said here today, and let's start from there. Okay. Now, the black community has issued a list of demands on threat of boycott on Friday, November the 5th.
No threat of boycott.
Okay.
Not a threat.
Thank you very much. Okay, Reg.
What I've seen in here today, I don't think is a true representation of the majority of the black people in the community.
Could they close you down if all the black people cease to come to your store?
I don't think they'd close you down, but they can make it so effective that your business would suffer.
Well, it's been done before, but then there's other places to move. And if all these businesses move out, they're not gonna be in too good a shape either.